In this episode, we finally crossed the state line. I interview a rising star. And we come face to face with the most powerful bite in the world. After our wonderful stay in the East Kimberley, we set out again and soon crossed over into the Northern Territory. We drove the 800 kilometres to Darwin with an overnight stop in Catherine that we'll revisit in a future episode. On our way, just outside Timber Creek, we happened upon another memorial to that migration of the Durack family and all those cattle.
So we're just on our way to Catherine, and we've stopped in Timber Creek, which is the only settlement between Lake Argyll and Catherine, over about 500 kilometres. We've just pulled over for a coffee break just outside town, and we've come across this Durack memorial, which is once again a memorial to the Durack family, in particular to Patrick Durack, and it gives this book, the information board summarises his story, including the memorable trek across the top of the country with all of those cattle, 3,000 miles to the Ord River. It gives a little brief history of where he started in New South Wales, where they ended up in the Kimberley, and a couple of interesting places to visit along the way, including a museum and Gregory's tree, which is a boab which was carved with Augustus Charles Gregory's initials, and he was the first man to explore the Victoria River area. So there you go, it all ties together.
Then it was on to Darwin, where I caught up with the star of the show.
Okay, so this is the kind of little extra bit. It's the extra bit before the main bit. But we are delighted and honoured to be joined today by Sheila McCormick, star of Matilda and the Barefoot Medic. So Sheila, thank you very much for coming on our bit of the show.
My pleasure.
We finally made it to Darwin.
We did.
After nearly 6 weeks of travelling, finally crossed the state line.
Very exciting moment.
So tell me, what were your top 3 moments in Western Australia?
Oh, now that's okay. I haven't been asked this question in time to prepare, so I would say the top 3. Okay, I've got to say the gorges at Karijini, which were fabulous. To my surprise, I'm going to say the Bungle Bungles, because as you know, I didn't really know quite why you were so excited about the Bungle Bungles, but they were pretty fabulous. What else? I just really loved Broome. I just loved the feel, the vibe of Broome, really, and we were somewhere really close to the beach, and the camels and the sunsets, of course, at Broome. That would be my 3rd thing, the sunsets at Broome. The sunset at 80 Mile Beach was pretty spectacular as well, but with a little bit of context, the sunsets there were in Broome were amazing, especially somewhere where you could get a Diet Coke and a bit of cheese on toast to eat it with. So yeah.
Sounds like Broome made an impression on you.
Broome certainly did, yeah.
And if there was one place that you could choose to go back to, where would it be?
Only one. At the moment it would be Broome. It's an interesting place. There's lots of little historical nuggets there. It's a very comfortable place to stay. It's got lots of it's got nice coffee and nice food and so on. But you can also go to various different places from there. You can travel around a little bit and see some interesting things. You know, I'd quite happily go and spend a couple of weeks in Broome.
Okay, wonderful. And what was your lowest point in WA?
My lowest point was probably when you got locked in the loos at Karijini. Or was it the bungle bungles? The bungle bungles.
Yeah, someone bungled the bungle bungles. Yes.
Yes. So that was a bit of a low moment until I realised what was going on.
We may have to do a survival special on that particular episode.
Yeah, definitely. And no, I think that was probably the lowest point, really.
Okay. And finally, the quirkiest, the strangest thing that you found in Western Australia?
I guess actually, funnily enough, Carnarvon, because although 5 minutes on the internet would have revealed that there was in fact a space museum there, but I had no idea, and so learning about the history of that was really interesting, and I don't think I'll ever need to go back to Carnarvon, but it's nice to know it's there.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been fascinating to get your insight into the trip so far, and we hope that you enjoy Darwin City.
I'm looking forward to it tremendously.
Marvellous. And on that note, dear listeners, viewers, it's back to the studio.
And following my journalistic scoop, we continued our exploration of Darwin's answer to Q.
We're visiting the botanical gardens, and we've come across a little area which is devoted to the boab trees, or baobab trees as they're known in Africa. So boab trees there's only one species that grows in Australia, and it only grows in northwest Australia, primarily the Kimberley and the western part of the Northern Territory. So this display here has got quite a few boabs. They're certainly not the most impressive that we've seen compared to those in the wild, but it's nice to see the little bit of information about them, and there's also several different species of boab trees, so it's quite interesting to compare with some of those which are found in Africa, for example.
Having checked out the gardens, we moved on to the marina for a spot of lunch at the Fin and Tonic, which apart from great food, had the most beautiful view of the Timor Sea. Fortified with their offering of fresh barramundi, we continued our walk through Darwin. The city has a relaxed feel, and with a population of around 150,000, it's home to about half of all Territorians. Across the entire territory, there's roughly one saltwater crocodile for every 3 humans. So, we decided to go and see what they're all about. And it turns out, they're not as jaunty as the cartoons would have you believe. They problem solve at least as well as dogs, have a bite that generates pressures of over 3,000 psi, twice the force of a T-Rex and more than enough to crush bone, and are bristling with heightened senses designed to make them the stone-cold killers they are. Their handlers say they can be trained but not tamed. So feeding time is always conducted with great caution and a very long stick.
Sheila, a wonderful afternoon at Crocosaurus Cove, featuring your favourite animals. Have you enjoyed it?
I have enjoyed it, although I have been utterly, I'm not quite sure. I mean, I said earlier that they give me the heebie-jeebies, and I think they are magnificent animals. We're talking about saltwater crocodiles here. They're magnificent animals. They're utterly terrifying. You have to respect them, and you also have to keep clear of them. I chose to come here as the safest place where we could actually see a saltwater crocodile, and I think that was a good decision. Yes.
I have to say, we've been here getting on for 3 hours, and I didn't realise how intelligent they were. demonstrate clear problem-solving abilities and can navigate over hundreds of kilometres. So they will return to their old stomping ground if they're captured and removed. So the way this place here works is a lot of these salties that they've got have been problem salties. They've been aggressive males in the wild who've been removed, and they've basically been taken to Crocosaurus Coves off-site rural facility where they're basically kept. Isn't that right? And I think they're rotated in here.
There is an active breeding program because they were hunted almost to, also not to extinction, but there were fewer than 500 animals left in the wild, and so they've been rehabilitated. They're now up to previous numbers, normal numbers. I believe that there is that they're farmed for the catering industry as well, and
because we need more saltwater crocodiles here. And this magnificent fellow behind us, he really kind of tells a tale about what goes on in this place with all these aggressive crocs in captivity. This is Wendell, and Wendell's lost a leg because he had a disagreement with somebody in the another croc in the croc farm at some point. So, but it has been an absolutely fascinating afternoon.
And having satisfied our curiosity, we decided to check out the Mindle Beach Sunset Market. Held every Thursday and Sunday in the dry season, this is a real magnet for locals, and most of Darwin seems to descend on the stalls for drink, food, music and camels. Anything Broome can do, Darwin will compete.
I think you made it free.
I think I have, haven't I?
Oh, look at him. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, we can just go shopping now if you want.
And the live music performed by members of the armed forces reminded us just how strategically important the top end is, and always has been, for the security of the nation.
On the stage in my keys, it's where I belong down. Morning club, I'm gonna keep on dancing at the big morning club. I'm gonna keep on dancing down in West Hollywood. I'm gonna keep on dancing at the big morning club. Morning club, sing away.
But then we made our way down to the waterfront for dinner. This is a great area with a wonderful buzz, loads of excellent restaurants and bars. But the next day, we were back again, exploring Darwin's history.
It's quite a good place to discuss a little bit of the history of Darwin and the Northern Territory. We're stood on the promontory here, looking down, effectively the cliff down at the waterfront. Over behind me, I'll just swing around here, and you can see that's the Parliament House, and this little lookout here featured in World War II, I think an anti-aircraft battery. So Darwin began to be developed in the 1870s, so it's quite late in the history even of Australia. The Northern Territory was originally in 1863 was transferred to the administration of South Australia, so it became the Northern Territory of South Australia, and it wasn't until 1911 that South Australia basically threw the towel in and said that the cost of trying to develop the Northern Territory was so prohibitive that they effectively needed to give the territory back to the federal government, bearing in mind that the federal government had only been established in 1901. So that's how young Australia as a unified country is. So from 1911, the Northern Territory became a self-governing area under the direct supervision of the federal government, and it still remains that today. So Parliament House behind me, they are entirely self-governing, but at the behest of the Commonwealth government, because the population here is so small, 300,000 in a vast area. In the Second World War, Darwin was hit mercilessly by Japanese air attacks. When I was a kid, I had developed the impression that Darwin had been bombed once or twice at the very limit of Japanese expansion, but it turns out that the Australian government did indeed downplay the reports of attacks on Darwin for fear of causing panic and lowering morale. And it turns out that actually this place was really pounded. In February 1942, Darwin was hit by, there were 54 land-based bombers came over from presumably the Indonesian archipelago, but they were joined by the full force of the aircraft of a carrier group that included the 4 aircraft carriers that attacked Pearl Harbor. Now that attack had taken place 6 weeks earlier. They then steamed across the Pacific, and that same carrier group attacked Darwin with 54 extra land-based bombers. So Darwin was hit harder than Pearl Harbor, and it continued to be hit repeatedly. Not just Darwin, but a lot of the places that we visited in our travels so far, all the way across to Exmouth, but including Port Hedland, Broome, which was heavily hit, Derby, and Wyndham. The place was kept going. It was used as a forward base of operations, although because a lot of the combat between the Allies and the Japanese ended up being over in the Coral Sea, Darwin wasn't quite the centre of strategic operations, but nevertheless it remained under constant attack until the end of 1943. So for 18 months this place was absolutely pummeled. We then move on. In the post-war period, it started to grow and develop again until we get to 1974, and probably the worst Christmas present that any city is ever going to receive. Christmas Day, 1974, tropical cyclone Tracy that destroyed 90% of the buildings in Darwin, and of a population at the time of just under 40,000, more than 30,000 people had to be evacuated. So the city was obliterated, but all those people came back and rebuilt it. And I have to say, we think it is delightful. It has a beautiful feel to it. The waterfront was wonderful last night, and the whole place just has quite a feeling of civic pride about it, but also it's pretty relaxed and laid back. So there you are, the entire history of Darwin.
And after a walk past Government House and the Darwin War Memorial, I came upon something quintessentially Australian.
So we're just looking at some more information boards here. I've got to tell you this story because this is just so Australian. This is the story recounted by a guy called Wilbert Hudson, known as Darky Hudson, who was 19 years old in 1942 on the day when the Japanese made their airstrike here. He is the first person to have been awarded a military honour, a decoration. I think he won the military medal for an action on Australian soil. Basically, he was in the shower when he heard planes coming over, and then realised that they were enemy planes, so he ran out of the shower, grabbed his Lewis gun, rested it on a mate's shoulder and started firing at the Japanese aircraft as they came in, and they were doing strafing runs, so there's all these bullets whizzing around him. He hits one and it goes down and he gets a kill, and it's only then that he realises that his towel's fallen off and he's naked. So the first military award on Australian soil was by a guy with no clothes on firing a machine gun at an aeroplane. I think that's great.
And with that, our Darwin sojourn was complete. This is a real gem of a place, and while I'm sure the wet season may present some challenges, this is one of Australia's best kept secrets, and we'll definitely be back. Tune in next time for our Kakadu special, when we'll be exploring the national park famous for its wetlands, ancient culture and indigenous rock art.